Please stand as you are able for the reading of the Gospel. The Holy Gospel can be found beginning on page 874 of your Pew Bible if you'd like to follow along. The Holy Gospel according to St. John, the 12th chapter, verses 1 through 8. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, the home of Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. There they gave a dinner for him. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those at the table with him. Mary took a pound of costly perfume made of pure nard, anointed Jesus' feet, and wiped them with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of the disciples, the one who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the money given to the poor?" Well, he said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. He kept the common purse, and he used to steal what was put into it. Jesus said, "Leave her alone. She bought it so that she might keep it for the day of my burial. You always have the poor with you, but you do not always have me." This is the gospel of the Lord. Thanks be to God. Please be seated. I want to invite any children who are here this morning to come on up and join me here for a children's message. Looking to see if there's any motion. I don't see any little kids coming up, so we're just going to continue with the sermon. Grace and peace to you from God our Creator and from Jesus, the Son of God, who came to redeem a broken world. Amen. When was the last time that you were really surprised? When was the last time that you were caught by the unexpected? Was it an unannounced guest or a visitor? Maybe you got a phone call that you didn't expect. Perhaps you were the subject of a surprise party. Maybe you received some kind of good news or maybe some bad news that you weren't anticipating. When was the last time that you were surprised? Well, just a week ago, Trinity's mission team returned from Jamaica. It was a pretty incredible experience. The group worked really hard, and we had a great trip. I've made this journey now to the orphanage probably, over 20 times. The children of West Haven Children's Home have worked their way deep into my heart. But even though I've been there a bunch, every time I'm there is something that catches me off guard, something that surprises me. And this year was no exception. Now, our team was split. Some were working at West Haven with the children and young adults. Others were working about 10 minutes up the road with a program called Jabode. Jabode is the Jamaican equivalent of Habitat for Humanity. A family qualifies, funds are raised for the materials, and then volunteers work alongside the family to build a small and simple home. And when I say small, I mean small. I actually put a picture of the house that we built on the front of your bulletin if you want to see exactly what I'm talking about. Jabode homes all have the same floor plan. There are 2 rooms, a rectangular living space that is 12 feet by 16 feet, and then a small attached bathroom, probably 4 feet by 6 feet. That's it. It's a total of 216 square feet of living space. Actually, probably about the same size as my son's bedroom. It has enough space for only the very essential things, but these homes are a significant step up from where the residents are living now. Well, we were building for Laverne and her 8-year-old daughter. They currently live in an older and kind of beat-up home that's actually probably about twice the size of the one that we were building, but was shared with 5 other family members. Now, Laverne is great. She's stoic, she's a little bit crusty, And she has this great, sarcastic sense of humor. I like her. These homes are built in 3 days. At the end of the 3rd day, we do a home blessing. Now, I've done home blessings before, so I kind of knew what to expect. When we blessed Laverne's home on the end of that 3rd day, I did an invocation and a short opening prayer, and then Abigail, one of our team members, actually the bass player today in True North, read a section of Psalm 84, where the psalmist writes, "Even the sparrow finds a home, and the swallow a nest for herself, where she may lay her young at your altars. Happy are those who live in your house, ever singing your praise." And then I shared some of our group's hopes for Laverne and her daughter, and then before we prayed, I got to place the keys to her home in her hand. And Laverne, stoic Laverne, crusty Laverne, funny Laverne, then did something I didn't expect. Clutching her keys, she buried her face in her hands, and she burst into tears. I got to be honest, I was so surprised I kind of didn't know what to do. So I did the only natural thing. I started crying. And then I looked out at our group, and then the domino effect was in full force, and many of them were crying. And then Laverne walked over and gave me a giant hug and just held on like she was holding on for dear life, crying tears of joy for her 216 square foot home. In Laverne's reaction, I was reminded, sometimes life, sometimes faith, sometimes grace, it surprises us. Now, our gospel story for this weekend is one that is full of surprises. Jesus and his disciples traveled to Bethany and went to the home of Lazarus for dinner. Lazarus, you may recall, is the one who had died, and Jesus brought him back from the dead. And Lazarus' sisters, Mary and Martha, were serving. As usual, Martha was busy taking care of the guests. But Mary takes this bottle of perfume, expensive perfume, worth a full year's wages, and used it to anoint Jesus' feet. She rubbed it in, and the excess she wiped away with her own hair. Well, the disciples, they were aghast. They were shocked, even angry. This was a surprise. It was very unexpected, even scandalous. It was unexpected that Jesus would be anointed in this way by Mary. In the culture at the time, it was always the men who anointed men. For a woman to even touch Jesus broke Jewish law. It was unexpected that someone would use such expensive perfume to clean someone's feet. It was unexpected that when the disciple Judas then challenged Mary for doing this, Jesus would launch into an argument with him right there at the dinner table. It was unexpected that Jesus would, in the midst of Mary's act of kindness, dampen the mood of the dinner by talking about his own death. But in this moment, Mary literally lets down her hair and anoints Jesus. It's a powerful and unexpected image. God regularly loves to do the unexpected. God does this with, for, and through unexpected people. Remember that sometimes life, sometimes faith, sometimes grace, it surprises us. Look through biblical history. Sarah, in her old age, wasn't expected to have children, let alone become the matriarch of God's chosen people. Moses wasn't expected to lead the Israelites out of captivity. Miriam wasn't expected to become the prophetess of Israel. David was never expected to become a king. And the list goes on and on. God regularly loves to do unexpected things with unexpected people. Well, look at our own story here at Trinity. In 1919, a small group of determined women, members of a Ladies' Aid, who wanted the kids to learn the faith in what was their primary language, English, well, they weren't expecting to start a whole church. But 100 years later, here we sit. Over 4,000 members who form a community to welcome all, to connect with each other, to continue to learn the faith, and to serve our neighbor. If we were able to travel back in time and ask, I don't think that this small group of feisty women would have expected that their actions would lead to all of this. And as we approach the culmination of Lent and the celebration of Easter, we are reminded that one would expect death to have had the last word. That is, until the unexpected happens, and Jesus was raised from the dead. Sometimes life, sometimes faith, sometimes grace. It surprises us. And it forces me to wonder, now, today, 2,000 years after these miraculous events, what do we expect from God? Are you willing to let God surprise you? Are you able to look around and to see and to be surprised by the work of God in the world? Gathered in front of that small 216 square foot home on the Jamaican mountainside, surrounded by people she'd only known for 3 days, Laverne was willing to let herself be surprised by God's grace and love. Her tears showed that. The tears of our group showed that. And these signs showed me that within that moment of surprise, we were standing on holy ground. To let yourself be surprised by God requires a level of vulnerability. It means that we are able to accept the work of God and to not try to explain it away or rationalize it. And in a world where we like to maintain control, this can be a challenge for us. At least it is for me. Generally, I don't like surprises. Don't mess with my plans, God. Surprises mean that I'm not in control. If something surprises me, it means that I'm not managing the circumstances, right? Well, in today's gospel text, then, it can feel like Jesus is speaking right to me. Anybody else? Well, this gospel text begins our journey to the cross. From here in Bethany, Jesus and his disciples will proceed to Jerusalem, and there he will be arrested. In the days to come, my friends, as we take this journey with Jesus together, I encourage you to do something just a little bit out of the ordinary. Open yourself up to the surprise that comes with the gifts of love and grace. When something unexpected happens, something that perhaps might surprise you a bit, wonder if that might be a way that God is at work. Or perhaps even a way that God is communicating with you. Open your eyes to see God in the midst of it. And remember that Jesus did not come to meet our expectations. He did not come to give the safe and easy and the answers that we can foretell. No, Jesus came to bring love and salvation to all. For many of you who don't feel like we're worthy of this gift, it is unexpected. But it is real. Jesus' life, death, and resurrection was unexpected. And when we embrace that Jesus has entered our lives and accompanies us, life becomes full of surprises. Remember that sometimes life, sometimes faith, sometimes grace, sometimes love, sometimes Jesus surprises us. Thanks be to God. Amen.